as you guess probably from my name and from my accent, I'm from Italy. But I came in the Netherlands already in 2002, and I've been living here ever since. At that time, I was doing an internship at Forrester Research, and that was the time where customer experience was really just born as a terminology. I wrote my master's thesis on it, and that was considered experimental at that time because it was such a new thing against customer relationship management, CRM, which everyone was using. And after that, I've been spending the past 15 years into the customer experience world. I held various positions at companies like Forrester, Stream, or Philips, always in customer experience role, where I was able to drive changes, and I really had to push my way through in the organization to really drive the organization end-to-end with the customer experience in mind. Customer experience was a major passion for me. It was like I would define it with blood and sweat, but there was something which was not clear to me yet, and that was why. Why did I care so much? Why did it matter? And why should everyone care about it as well? My moment of truth really happened last year. I was writing a blog post about branded customer experience management. Now, this management approach suggests that we add pain into the experience to make it more memorable. I was familiar with the approach, but it didn't quite resonate with me. So I decided to learn more about it, and I followed their certification program. And I was really writing about it. It really touched something in me. Suddenly, everything became clear to me because I started wondering, pain, purposely designed and added into the experience? Why? Pain will happen anyhow at some point in the experience because no matter how much we design, plan, and execute, at some moment we will have some hiccups anyway in the experience. And our lives are already having some pain in it. So why should we add extra pain by design? That was the moment where I started asking myself the question, in which world would I rather live in? And before I give you the answer that I got from myself to that question, I would like to invite you for a moment to experience the two possible worlds, a world of pain and a world of happiness. So if you can be with me for 3 minutes, I'm going to let you do something slightly unconventional for a conference. So I hope you trust me on that. I'm going to ask you to close your eyes. And I promise you, it's only going to be 3 minutes, so you can trust me, right? There will be no surprises. I'm just going to drive you through a visualization of two experiences. So close your eyes, breathe in, and think of a recent experience, a recent interaction with a company that you had over the past days or week, where this interaction was not pleasant, it was not successful. Either you were not able to achieve your goal, either you were trying to buy something, but it was not possible to complete the purchase, either you were having an interaction with a person in the shop or at the call center, which really didn't go well. How did that make you feel? Upset, frustrated, even angry, highly disappointed. What did you do as a consequence of that interaction and of that feeling? Did you complete the transaction? Did you make a mental note never to buy from that company again? Did you tell one person or many persons about that experience? And did it maybe even made the rest of the interaction of your day really unpleasant because you were still having that feeling of angriness in you? Take a moment to acknowledge that feeling and the consequences of that interaction and let it go. I will now drive you through a different type of experience, an experience which instead was pleasant, it was remarkable, an interaction with a company which really made you say, wow, I really want to buy from this company. Maybe you were trying to buy something, maybe you were looking for a Father's Day present, and you went on the website, and within no time, you already had a recommendation which fitted your need. It didn't take time for you to complete the transaction. Everything was easy, required no effort. It was just easy to do. How did that make you feel? Relieved, satisfied, trustworthy, happy, delighted. And what did you do as a consequence of that interaction? Did you complete your transaction? Did you maybe add extra stuff to your basket or to your shopping list because of how happy you were? Did you tell someone or many people about your experience and promise yourself to always buy from that company because it's just so easy to interact with them? Acknowledge again that experience and how it made you feel, and now you can open your eyes and keep your smile and the relaxation that you have on your face, because that's the impact that a good experience have on us. And I can tell you now what was the answer for me to that question. As I asked myself that question, I realized that really my dream is to live in a world where we all strive to create happy, life-enriching interaction for each other, where companies strive to design and deliver products, services, experiences which are really meaningful and enrich our life. And where we have business models that really see companies like employees and customers all like human beings, which are ultimately having a common shared goal, a healthier, peaceful, happier life. That is why my mission is to help companies design and deliver those wow experiences, which are really life-enriching. They make our life better. Because ultimately, the reason why we buy, it's because we want to feel happy. And I use the word we, because we should not see customers something apart from us. We are customers ourselves. So we are becoming more and more aware of all the purchases that we do, and we are no longer buy a product just because of what it does or for the pleasure of possession. In fact, we are moving to a subscription economy. We are buying a product or even an experience because of how it makes us feel, and we want to feel happy. And we also buy from people we like and trust, people with which we are able to create a connection that we really feel are adding something to us. As we went through the exercise, what you also recognize is that interactions with company really represent a major part of our daily interaction. Nearly for everything that we need to do, we need to interact with companies. As I go through interactions with company myself, I'm completely aware of how do they make me feel and how they could be different. At times, I even count the interactions that we have with companies during the day. And they can be at least 12 interactions over the day, which at 10 minutes average each, they are at least 2 hours of your day, 15% of our wake time spent interact with companies. But we are all so unconscious anymore. We go so much in autopilot through those interactions, which we do not realize, consciously at least, how much those interactions have an impact on our time, on our happiness, and ultimately on our subconscious choice for the next purchase. So by having mediocre interactions, we miss out on business growth and we miss out on a better life for all of us. Even though we are not conscious about this, it does impact our choices and purchases. So happiness matters to us not only as customers, but it matters to us also as companies, as businesses. Why? Because it is happy customers that really drive business growth. Because of 5 behaviors that they usually show. One is that they renew. They keep buying from you, they keep repurchasing. When they buy, they tend to buy more. They tend to add more to their basket because they know they can trust you. They also forgive you more. If I'm so happy with the products that I'm using, if Weber never failed me, with the one time that it might fail me for some reason, I will just be more willing to forgive it quickly. Customers which are happy, they're also providing more feedback. They continuously give you feedback for improvement because they want you to be successful. They want to still exist as a company because you fulfill their needs, so they're going to be very willing to provide you feedback. And finally, they advocate you, so they create for you word of mouth, but they also praise you. And praise often means that they will also tell the people that interact with at the shop or the people that interact with on the phone that they are happy. And that, in turn, will also make your employees feel happy so that the system really circulates itself and you create both happy customers and happy employees. So but how do we know if we are creating happy customers? And what is happiness? Happiness, at the end, is an emotion. Emotions have a very strong correlation, a direct link with needs. When our needs are not met, we feel emotions such as sadness, anger, resentment, frustrations. When our needs and our customer needs, but just as well as our human needs are met, that is when we start to feel emotions such as relief, satisfaction, advocacy, or happiness. So happiness happens at the top of our needs pyramid. Now, in the past 10 years, I've always been analyzing and reading thousands of customer survey responses to answers to the question, how likely are you to recommend us to friends or colleagues, or how satisfied are you? In order, and next to the score question, we also always ask the why question. So I've been able to run some qualitative analysis next to the quantitative. And in order to identify what were the drivers, I've been applying an adapted version of the Maslow hierarchy of needs pyramid. Now, Maslow was stating that humans have a hierarchy of needs. Well, guess what? Customers, which are human beings, have also a hierarchy of needs, because again, they are just human. And this hierarchy of needs also has a correlation with the Net Promoter Score, or with their capability and availability to recommend. So what did we see from the analysis? First, if we are not even meeting the basic needs, that's where we see that the customer are giving a score of 0 to 3. Of course, they are like really frustrated, they are really sad, we have failed to meet their basic needs. What are the basic needs? They are really the hygiene of interaction with the company. It is, for example, if you purchase a product, that you're purchasing it online, that you are able to go from the beginning of the end of the process, so you're able to check out, you have at least one payment method, and you eventually get the product delivered at some point in time. That's really the basic need. When we meet those basic needs, we see that the score is really 4 to 5. It's like, yeah, you give me the minimum, but I'm not happy. If we start meeting the next level of needs, that's safety need. So not only I know that you will deliver my product, but you start telling me by when you will deliver my product. And actually, on the information, there is a phone number, so that I know that if I do not get the product, I may call someone. So it's really some sort of security net which the customer feels. Or here it's also when the invoice that you send, it's correct. When you meet this level of needs, we are scoring a 6. We are merely giving customer satisfaction. It's fine. You're giving me what I paid you for, and it's just sufficient for me. It's from the next level of needs that we really start to creating some more into the customer. Efficiency and consistency needs on the customer side are, for example, about having a very consistent experience across all the channels, being able to go through the checkout process in just a few minutes, being able to call the call center and not having to repeat the entire story over and over again. But until here, we are still meeting just needs, mostly functional needs, mostly things that are about success, about the basic that everyone believes they've paid for. That's why customers at this level are still passive in a Net Promoter Score world. And what I always hear as a question is, we have done everything correct, and in the comments the customer also wrote, nothing to do, everything was fine. Why are they still giving us a 7 or 8? It's because we have just delivered this, the minimum, or what was expected. We just met some of their key needs, but we haven't moved yet in the top of the pyramid. The top of the pyramid, it's about where it's not just about needs or conscious needs, but it's also about unrecognized needs, desires, things that the customer doesn't even know he wants or he needs, items that really make them say, wow. So for example, here it's about attention and cooperation. It's really like items like I go on the website and it already recognizes me, it already drives me exactly to the type of purchase that I need to do. Because, for example, things like Father's Day or Mother's Day are coming up, or you know where my birthday is, and there are a number of things which are already set up there. If I call the contact center, here it would be that the agent really recognizes me, knows who I am. And if we go one level higher, he also really understands not only the issue that I have, but he really cares to solve it, because he understands the impact that that issue has on my own situation. So that's where the agent is able to connect with me, is able to, like in the example we heard before, not to just say, oh, you need to fill in this form and send it to us, but really also to acknowledge that something in your life has happened. Oh, I'm sorry for your loss, we'll take care of it. That is where really the connection at more empathic level happens. It's also about recognizing and anticipating the needs and desires of the customer, and helping them also fulfill them by, for example, allowing a certain number of things to just be done automatically online. This is where really the wow comes into play, and it's where if you fulfill the needs and desires of your customers at this level, you will get a 10, you will create promoters, but most important of all, you will contribute to people's happiness. And not only to your employee happiness, but what normally happens at this level, you also contribute to your employees' happiness, because the interactions that happen here are much more pleasant, not only for the customers, but also for the employees that interact with the customer. And when applying this model, this framework, we've always been able to really improve not only the Net Promoter Score, but really the happiness of both parties. We also saw reduction, for example, on the employee sickness on the contact center side, because agents were just happier to go to work, and they really could see that they were impacting someone's life. Now, next to the element that we have seen, there is some other elements which really impact the customer experience and that also influence the score. One is the effort, which often gets measured through customer effort score. But the other one, which is also really key, it's the timing. And there are two levels of timing into the experience. One is the timing of resolution, and the other one, the timing of the lifetime itself. So resolution is, for example, how long does it take me to place an order online? How long does it take me from the moment I complete the order to receive the order? How long does it take me from the moment that I open a case at the contact center to the moment that that case gets solved? And what we have seen in analyzing the data, both the comments and the score, is that also here there is a very strong correlation between the score and whether you are in what I call the boiling point or the wow point. The boiling point is that point in time where no matter anymore what you do in the top of the pyramid, you have missed out the mark. If I'm preparing an exam and I'm waiting for a book to be delivered, and for some reason the delivery of that book goes wrong, and you deliver it to me after the exam date, well, no matter what you do or in how much gold you put it, it's not of any use to me anymore. In a software support environment, we saw that if a customer is calling us because he has a problem with the software, he needs an answer within few hours. So the wow point is normally when we resolve it on the spot in a first-time resolution or within few hours. But if it's going to take us more than 1 or 2 days, it normally goes very quickly to the boiling point, because maybe they were preparing something with that software that needed to be delivered within a week, and if you take 2 days already away from it, they're going to miss out their timeline. And then if you go up, you have some turning points or neutral point where it doesn't matter so much the timing of the experience, so it becomes much more important how you handle the overall experience. When putting all those elements together, you really get a complete insight on what drives the customer experience and on what impacts also the score. Now, value for money, you see it here because it doesn't necessarily impact the experience in itself, but at times it impacts the perception of the customer, and we have seen that it influences the score. Again, you heard an example earlier this morning. Price, it's a tricky one. It doesn't mean if you have delivered incredibly well here, then price does not matter anymore, because the value, the perceived value of the experience is going to be very high, so the price does not matter. But if the value that they get from the experience, so they're here, is going to be low, at that point, it will matter for the customer, and you will see that it reflects in a low score. So using this framework, you can get a really detailed view on what really does the customer feel and what is the experience that is feeling. And how can you get this view directly from your very own customers? Anyone? What is one of your best tools, what we have talked about a lot also this morning, where you can get this view directly from your customers? NPS, right? So Net Promoter Score, it's really one of the key tools that we can use in order to get this insight just straight from the words of the customer. And why does it really work well? It's because customers do want to talk to you. They do need the space to voice their experience. If you think back about the example and about your own experience, every time you experience an interaction with a company, you tend to talk about it with friends or family. What we see that customers are now voicing online, on social media. So if you do not give them an official channel where they can share their experience, they will do it anyhow on social media. And because we as companies really need a way to be able to understand and to listen to the customer on how they're feeling and what they think of the experience, then the best way possible is that we as companies directly give them that space to voice. And if we do that, we can then use NPS in the insight, the data that we get from it, we can turn it into insight, so that the actions that we are going to do are going to be fully insight-driven, and therefore they will bring results in very short time, improving both the happiness of the customers as well as the employees. So when NPS is set up correctly, it really becomes a magic key to get direct access to the voice of the customer, to identify the drivers of happiness, to measure the customer experience that you are delivering, to run your improvement programs, to engage the entire organization by helping everyone in the organization correctly understand the needs of the customer, and by focusing action on what really matters. And it is also a great way to gain customer engagement because of some actions that you can do. So how do we set up NPS correctly? I would like at this point to ask you a couple of questions, and by show of hands, so if you raise your hands if you are already running a customer survey. Keep your hands up if it's an NPS survey. Keep your hands up if you have an open text question. If you read every comment. Okay, pretty good. If you follow up with each comment. If you cluster the comments to drive structural improvement. Is there still anyone hands up? Okay. And finally, if you share the results internally and externally. Okay, I see some hands coming back up. Like, those are the key essential elements of building a strong Net Promoter and customer experience program. And yet, very few companies, it's still really just the leaders on the market that are doing all of those elements. And how can you do them more? By building what we call the NPS and customer experience household. Over the past really 10, 15 years, what was initially a very simple framework, it evolved with experience into a very complete framework, which I like to call the household. You can say here I was very influenced by having my first two kids at this point, where I started to think in household, how do we get everything organized, inside, outside, how do we plan everything? And then turned also a bit into this model. So in order to set up your NPS and customer experience, you need some building blocks, which are creating your face on the outside towards the customer, but also that create your internal organization. What do you need to place in the organization? And in order to build the outside and the inside, you need to develop some competencies areas. So what are the fundamentals? So it really starts at the beginning with having a vision of what you want to bring into the market. So creating your organization, a structure, a vision, having the culture of the company at a later point, having employees, defining your customers or target customers, and then ultimately creating products, services, experience that you design and deliver to the market. But once you deliver, the customers will perceive them in a different way. That's the definition that we use for customer experience. It's really the perception of the interaction with the company. Because no matter how well you deliver something, it will always be a matter of perception of that interaction from the customer side. So in an NPS world, then you also need to align within the organization about being customer-centric, about wanting to run an NPS survey, and you need to have the executive buy-in, leadership buy-in. So that's the first part, which is about alignment. And once you have delivered an experience, you can then listen and measure by the means of the Net Promoter Score survey, for example, to really understand what do your customers think about the experiences that you are delivering. When setting up an NPS survey, you need to think of items such as what is going to be your sample. Are you going to survey all your customers or only some of your customers? How often are you going to survey them? What you will say in your invitation, both from a content point of view and from a look and feel point of view? Is it aligned with your overall brand image? What type of questions are you going to ask? You're going to ask the NPS questions, and then what else? The why question, the what can we improve question. It's fundamental to make a critical decision here because they will impact what you're going to be able to understand from it later. Data feed is also important. What type of information can you already pull in from your CRM system that you don't need to ask again to your customer? And what type of information do you need to include, like, for example, the pricing, the date the case was open, the date the case was closed, so that afterwards you are going to be able to really run some insightful analysis. So in order to do this, from the internal point of view, you need to put in place an NPS and a CRM tool, but you also need to have an NPS or customer experience team. And the bigger your organization, the more also you may need within the organization NPS champion. For example, in each BU, in each function, people that really support you in create an overall engagement within the organization. Once you have sent the NPS survey, you can start to understand by running key reports and analysis, but also by linking it to your operational metrics and to financial results. NPS is ultimately a forward-looking indicator of your growth, but it's also a laggard indicator of your business's performances. So you need to link this already to your operational metrics. For example, the speed of delivery, the amount of missing deliveries, the amount of faulty deliveries, so that you already know by checking of those operational metrics what is the NPS that you can expect. And then when you see a certain change in the NPS, you know exactly which operational metrics you need to go and improve. The next level after we have run reporting and analysis is really to go and act on it. I always say, do not ask things to the customer if you're not going to act on it, because then you're wasting everyone's time. So if you do have an NPS survey, you need to act on it. And you need to act on it on a one-on-one basis, what we call the small closed loop, and you need to act on it on a wider base by running completely structural improvements. I will zoom in those two elements in a moment. But once you have done that, you also need to close the loop in terms of communication by sharing both externally with your customer and internally with your organization what you heard, what you did about it. And then ultimately, you will provide a revised version of your products or services so that you generate new customer experience. And this is also the point where you really create fully engagement. By connecting with the customer on a level of needs, and the same with the employees, you can then create a real engagement, deliver the wow, and really drive a change. This model also applies overall to customer experience, because you may simply here replace to the Net Promoter Score survey any other type of voice of the customer programs, such as social media listening or call center insights. I mean, there is plenty of insight directly in the contact center, where is the customer who calls you to tell you what is working, what is not working with the experience, or ratings and reviews. So also for all those elements, you can run exactly the same model. Ultimately, it's a journey. So the NPS household that you saw, it's really something that you have to build block by block, and you're going to do through what we identified as to be 6 phases, where at each level of those phases that the company goes through, you focus on a different item. So at the very beginning, you really focus on collecting the data. So the measurement itself will be your focus, but as you start collecting the data, you can move into the analysis, and so on and so forth. And also at each level, you may have more or less detailed actions for each of the building blocks that we have seen. And by the last year, you can really focus on the overall transformation, a cultural change, on doing more engagement areas. And what we also saw that in terms of timing, it's normally a process that takes between 1 and 5 years, depending also on the complexity and on the size of your company and on the products and the experience that you deliver. Using this approach, I already mentioned actually some of the examples that we had. In a software support, it was really about changing the timing that it took to solve the issue, avoiding to create backlog. And by doing that, we also achieved reduced employee sickness, because what we noticed were that for the employees itself, there was a lot of stress coming from the continuous volume of calls and not being able to be on the top of them, so they would just call in sick. The moment that they saw that there was interest from the management to get this fixed, and we could really involve them into the improvement process, they really saw that, like the management cares, we are not just here to pick up the phone. It drove a completely different change. So not only we improved the timing, so we reduced the cost at the contact center and we increased the customer happiness, but we improved also the employees' sickness rate. On a database, this is on a product side. Here, the improvement that we obtained was mostly just by changing the communication. So by really informing better the customers about what type of features were already in the product, because we could read from the comments that they were complaining that they were missing those type of features, and we're like, but actually those features are in the product. We learned we just needed to communicate it better. And finally, also on the transaction on the shop, I also already shared with you some of the results. So in conclusion, if you remember 3 things from me today, let them be: 1, that we all spend an amazing amount of time interacting with companies, either as employees, either as customers. So let's make sure that those interactions are as life-enriching and as happy as possible. 2, happy customers are the most profitable one. And happy employees are the most productive one. Happy basically drives healthy growth in a company, even in time of crisis. And finally, customer experience is the new competitive advantage. Probably new shouldn't even be there because it has been already for 14 years, but it's still new to be grasped. You can measure it and improve it with a well-set-up Net Promoter Score measurement program and by listening to the voice of the customer. And you have to remember that it's a journey and not a project. It really takes time to build the competencies that you need and all the building blocks within the company. And very finally, I would like to leave you with a quote and with a question. This is my favorite quote about happiness. It's from Gandhi, and it says that happiness is when what you think, what you say, and what you do are in harmony. To which I've added the following: and what you experience. Because day in, day out, we go through experiences. So we build this happiness. So the question I would like to leave you with is, in which world would you rather live in? Thank you.